Welcome to True Movement Stories, where we share real and inspiring tales that touch the heart. If you enjoy stories of hope, kindness, and unexpected connections, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Now, let's begin today's story. A journey of healing, family, and the quiet heroes among us. My name is Jake Harland. I work as a janitor at Maplewood Elementary. It's not a glamorous job, but it pays the bills and keeps a roof over my son's head. My boy, Tyler, is 9 years old, wise beyond his years, with a heart bigger than most adults I know. 3 years ago, my world changed forever. My wife, Emily, lost her battle with cancer. Since then, it's just been me, Tyler, and a mop. I keep my head down at work, fix what's broken, and try to stay out of the way. I don't talk much, but I listen. Sometimes that's all you can do. But one day, trouble found me in the form of a little girl with huge brown eyes and a silence that could shake your soul. I first saw her sitting alone on the library steps, knees tucked to her chest, arms wrapped tightly around herself, face blank. No books, no lunchbox, not even a backpack, just a fragile presence. I leaned on my mop and watched for a minute before walking over. "You lost, sweetheart?" I asked gently. She didn't respond, didn't flinch, just stared forward. Miss Riley, one of the school aides, passed by and whispered, "That's Millie. She's new. They say she hasn't spoken a word in over a year. Mute or just choosing not to speak." I wondered. Days passed, and I kept seeing her. Always alone, always quiet. One afternoon, I found her in the art room, doodling with a broken crayon. I sat nearby, not wanting to startle her. She slid the paper toward me slowly. It was a sketch of a man mopping floors with a little boy watching from the corner. That was me and Tyler. She didn't smile, but her eyes softened. It was the first connection. From then on, she started following me around the school. Always a few steps behind, never speaking, just watching. And I let her. I started talking more when she was around, not to her, but in general. I told stories about Tyler, about how he burned spaghetti last night, about how we danced in the living room to old rock music. Millie never laughed, but sometimes I'd catch her watching with curiosity, like she was learning how to feel again. I even let her help mop once. She held the handle with me, barefoot, tiny hands steady. She didn't smile, but I did, a big one. One day, Millie didn't show up. Not in the hallway, not in the art room, not at lunch. I asked around. No one knew. Late that afternoon, I found her curled up in the janitor's closet, eyes swollen, cheeks red. I knelt slowly. "What happened, Millie?" She clutched a paper in her hands. It was a family tree assignment, but hers was blank. Only a stick figure labeled me. My throat tightened. "It's okay. Some trees start small, but they grow." Millie looked up at me, lips trembling. And then she whispered, "Daddy." I froze. It was barely audible, more breath than sound. But it was there. Tears filled my eyes. "I'm not your daddy, sweetheart, but I'm right here." Unseen by both of us, standing silently by the slightly ajar door, was Millie's mother, Jennifer Aniston. Elegant, sharp, untouchable. She'd arrived unannounced to check on her daughter. But when she saw Millie curled up with a janitor talking, she stopped. Jennifer watched through the crack in the door, hand covering her mouth. Tears streamed down her perfectly made-up face because she hadn't heard her daughter speak in 14 months. Not a single word. Therapists failed, tutors failed, nannies came and left. But here she was, whispering to a man who smelled like bleach and engine oil. Later that evening, as I was locking up, I heard a voice behind me. She said, "Your name is in the car." I turned. The woman stood tall, wrapped in a gray coat, eyes tired. She said, "Jake is my safe place." I didn't know what to say. Jennifer looked at me. "I've paid experts thousands to fix her. None of them did." I shrugged. "I didn't fix her. I just listened." Jennifer looked down. "Thank you for seeing her, for not treating her like she's broken." I smiled softly. She was never broken, just scared. The next morning, Millie waited outside the janitor's closet with a lunchbox. Jennifer stood a few steps away, watching. Tyler walked in and grinned when he saw her. "You coming to sit with us today?" he asked. Millie nodded. Tyler took her hand. "My dad makes the best grilled cheese. You gotta try it." I looked over. Millie was smiling, really smiling. And Jennifer? She looked at her daughter, then at me. And for once, she didn't feel like the richest person in the room. From that day forward, Millie sat with Tyler during lunch. She didn't talk much, but her eyes said plenty. She started humming sometimes when they played board games in the after-school room. She painted pictures of 3 stick figures, now her, Tyler, and me. Her world was expanding. Jennifer began showing up more, too, usually standing far off, dressed in her usual heels and polished coat. Out of place on the school's gravel path, but never interfering. She watched quietly as Millie walked beside the janitor, who never treated her like a project. One morning, Jennifer approached me by the tool shed. "Can I ask you something?" she said. I nodded, cautious. She hesitated. "Why do you care?" I looked at her for a moment, then replied, "Because someone cared for my son when I couldn't get out of bed for a month after my wife died. A school cook, Miss Joanne. She fed him, made him laugh, made him feel safe. I never forgot that." Jennifer didn't respond, but the next morning, she brought Miss Joanne 3 new pans and a bouquet of sunflowers. A month later, the school held a Family Roots Day. Each student had to share something about where they came from, who they called family. Millie stood in front of the class, her little hands gripping a crayon-colored poster. I sat in the back of the room, arms crossed, heart pounding. Jennifer was there too, standing silent like a marble statue just inside the door. The room was quiet. Everyone was nervous for Millie. She turned her poster slowly. 3 hand-drawn figures labeled, me. Jake, my safe place. Tyler, my first friend. Millie looked up. Then, clear as day, she said, "My family is not who I came from. It's who found me when I was lost." The room gasped. Jennifer dropped her designer purse. I stood slowly, eyes glassy. And Tyler? He cheered loudest of all. That night, I found a note in my janitor's locker. No envelope, just clean, expensive paper signed in elegant cursive. "You changed her life. If you ever want something more, something beyond mop buckets and broken pencils, call me. G." I folded it gently, tucked it in my shirt pocket, and didn't say a word. Later that week, Millie and Tyler ran around the school garden, squealing with laughter, while I fixed a broken fence post. Jennifer stood nearby, arms crossed, smiling softly. "Jake," she called out. I looked up. "Dinner tonight. Just the 4 of us." I blinked. "You sure about that?" She smiled. "You taught my daughter how to speak again. I think the least I can do is learn how to listen." Jennifer's house was everything I expected and more. High ceilings, marble floors, paintings worth more than my truck. But the kitchen was quiet. Too quiet. Millie, barefoot as always, sat next to Tyler, who was already halfway into a plate of spaghetti. I stayed standing, unsure if I should even sit. Jennifer noticed. "Relax. It's just dinner." I nodded and took my seat. But it wasn't just dinner. It was the first time Millie fed herself in front of anyone without looking terrified. It was the first time Jennifer poured someone else water. And it was the first time I laughed so hard in weeks when Tyler told a joke about my snoring like a motorcycle in a hurricane. Jennifer didn't just smile. She laughed. A real, uncontrolled, surprised laugh. And Millie, she reached across the table and touched her mother's hand gently. Jennifer froze, then placed her own hand over Millie's. I saw it, and something shifted inside me. A week later, rain came down hard across the town. School let out early. I stayed behind to help secure the windows. Jennifer's driver was late. She called, irritated. I offered them both shelter in my modest house nearby. She hesitated, but Millie tugged her sleeve. Inside, Jennifer stood in my small kitchen, watching me heat up soup while Tyler explained every magnet on the fridge. "Is that your late wife?" she asked, pointing at a faded photo. I nodded. "Emily, light of my life. Cancer took her in a winter just like this. Jennifer quietly studied the picture, then softly said, I stayed in a marriage for years because I thought power could replace love, but it left Millie more alone than I ever imagined. I looked at her. For once, she wasn't the celebrity. She was just a mother trying. The next day, back at school, Millie pinned something to the kindness wall in the hallway. A crayon drawing. Her, Tyler, me, and her mom. Under it, she'd written, I was quiet because I didn't think anyone would hear me, but someone did. Jennifer stood beside me, watching students walk past and stare. I had her evaluated last year, she whispered. The doctor said she may never speak again. I smiled faintly. Then the doctor never met Millie. Jennifer turned to me. Jake, I don't think I've said it out loud yet. I looked at her. Thank you for giving my daughter back her voice and giving me a reason to be more than just busy. Weeks later, the school board announced a renovation grant. New staff roles opened up. I came home to find a letter in the mail. Assistant Facility Director, Maplewood Elementary. My salary would double. Inside the envelope was a small note. You earned this. Let the world see what I've seen all along. That evening, Millie drew a new family tree. It wasn't blank anymore. The roots were made of mop strands. The branches were hands. Tyler's, mine, and Jennifer's. And the sun in the corner. A big smiling face with a name tag that said, Hello, I'm Millie. One morning, just before the first bell, I was fixing a broken bench in the school garden when a sleek black car pulled up by the front gate. Out stepped a tall man in a tailored coat, his features sharp, his presence commanding. Millie was on the swings with Tyler. She saw him and froze. I turned at the sound of her whimper. Jennifer stepped out of the building fast, heels crunching the gravel. Her eyes narrowed. David, she said flatly, why are you here? He looked toward Millie. I got your letter about her speaking again. I wanted to see for myself. Jennifer stepped between him and the playground. No, you don't get to just show up and play proud father. I stepped forward, calm but firm. She's just now beginning to feel safe. Don't mess that up. David looked at me like I was invisible. You're the janitor, right? Before I could answer, Millie walked up slowly. Her knees trembled, but she stood tall. She looked at her biological father and, in a soft but steady voice, said, You left. He stayed. The man faltered. Millie turned and walked straight to me. She took my hand, and without another word, David turned, got into his car, and drove away. That night, I found a folded piece of paper in my jacket pocket. It was written in Millie's handwriting. Dear Jake, I used to think silence kept me safe, but you taught me that love makes you brave. You didn't try to fix me. You just saw me, and that was enough. Thank you for being my hero, even when you didn't know I needed one. Love, Millie. I placed it on the fridge next to Tyler's stick figure drawings. I stood there for a long time, hand resting on the handle, tears in my eyes. Maplewood Elementary looked different. The floors were shinier. The walls were freshly painted. The kindness wall now stretched across the entire hallway. I wore a name badge that said, Operations Supervisor. Jennifer joined the school board and funded a special program for kids with trauma. And Millie, she stood at the front of the auditorium on Student Voice Day with a microphone in hand. Her voice shook a little, but she smiled. Sometimes, she said, your family finds you in the most unexpected places, like a janitor's closet, or a lunch table, or a mop bucket. Laughter, applause. Jennifer stood in the back, wiping tears again. I stood beside her, proud. Tyler clapped the loudest, yelling, That's my sister. After the event, the three of us sat on the same garden bench I once repaired. Millie leaned against my shoulder. Jennifer looked at me. You changed everything. I smiled softly. No, we did together. A breeze passed through the leaves. Millie looked up at the sky and whispered, I'm not scared anymore. And for the first time, Jennifer said something without holding back. She looked at me, eyes shining. Thank you for watching this story on True Movement Stories. If this story touched your heart, please give it a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories every week. Remember, sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can change a life forever. See you in the next story.